My name is Beyonce Giselle Knowles. I'm 82, and we're here filming a
Yo, look, it's super late for you right now. What the heck? Yeah, it should be super late for you right now. Mizu is live painting, working on yeah, his painting. I heard about the pyramids. We did go over that, right?
This will revolutionize your shaving routine. All thanks to Manscaped.com and their Handyman Compact Face Shaver, so you can look and feel your best in a package that fits in the palm of your hands. They've incorporated their skin-safe technology, helping to reduce nicks and cuts in the process. Plus, it's waterproof too, which makes cleaning a breeze by simply running it through some water. The best part though,
Well, hello there. Put my iPad over here because I didn't want to wipe it with this monster magnet. Before the pyramids
Hey, what's up, bro?
never made any sense, and I'm not interested in mindless, unintelligent, irrational speculation on anything. In live stream, all the time, people will ask me about certain super specific things, usually completely unrelated to anything I was ever interested in, and you want me to comment on it, so I'm not make a rational, intelligent discussion about something that I'm not familiar with and I was never interested in studying, so I just prefer not to comment. Also, too, I'm the furthest thing away from New Age woo-woo. Yeah, kind of like you go to Sedona, Arizona, and there's all these magic rock shops and people will do this number. I don't care what people do. I'm completely unconnected with that. And anytime someone discusses Giza pyramids, and I admit to not having been there myself, I would love to go. Obviously, it's too expensive. Just never interested because there's just far too much of an interlacing for anybody that's interested in discussing that. With the discovery of the new structures that sit beneath them, though, it instantly clicked what they were. I mean, before they made no sense. People have been talking about them being power plants for a long time, which, I completely dismissed offhand. Not entirely, of course. It's just, there's nothing there that says that. I'm still not actually saying that. There's a long laundry list of things that actually lock in, and it makes perfect sense. Now, everybody's talking about the new pyramid discoveries. Obviously so. I know that. Yeah, but none of them are actually saying, well, given this new evidence of what sits beneath the Great Pyramids, then this makes sense, and that clocks in, and that locks in, and that clicks, and all of this ties together into one rational, logical whole. And now it does. Before actually getting and discussing that, I have to make a little side comment that I've been talking about this for years. The largest importer of powerful real magnets is a guy called George Mizell, the guy His YouTube channel is called Super Magnet Man. He teaches mostly, but I think he's still partners of that company. He travels to China. He's made videos on how magnets are made. He makes these super fascinating, ultra high powerful Hall-back array magnets for scientific experimentation. And I've been saying this for many, many years, and it's included in my book on magnetism. The one time Now it's two though. The one time when you can actually say pyramid power is real, it's involving these, and I have more than a few of these, and they're dangerously powerful. It's even hard to get it off the stool here. Just like a fireman's nozzle, which of course is conical, essentially pyramidal shaped, and this is conical, even though of course it's a pyramid. The actual Gaussian flux at the tip is extremely high. You can actually take a Gauss meter and stick it on the tip of this magnet, and the magnetic centrifugal flux is focused, just as a shower nozzle or even a garden hose nozzle, where you actually tighten out the flux and you have the same amount of water passing through, but you're actually narrowing the constriction for the passage of the water. So you have the same amperage or flow of water, essentially, which is a perfect analogy. But what you've done is you've upped the voltage, so they actually have an extremely high Gaussian flux right at the tip. This is not my opinion or feeling or belief. This is an absolute hardcore scientific fact, where you can actually say, this type of pyramidal power is real, but it's rational, logical, and it's super easy to explain. You're just constricting the magnetic flux to a point. Now, the pyramids, everybody agrees, and this is not a new discovery, were covered in highly polished white limestone, which has some amazing, you can look that up on the internet, try to keep this away from my computer, very amazing dielectric properties. There are also two called extremely insulating, but everything that's actually an insulator is also a capacitor. There were gold capstones and Ben stones. The gold cap over top of the Ben stone are literally the topmost part of the pyramid. And, you know, all of this was well and fine until the discovery of the new structures. I have to be careful of how I set this down. You can see how powerful it is. Now I can get my iPad out. Everybody's discussing this on the internet, and I had to make this video. I made it like 3 or 4 days ago, but I've been crawling around on land. Here's the actual depiction, and everybody agrees this is how the pyramids used to look. They're completely covered in the casing stones. The casing stones are peeled off with pry bars over thousands of years, and people use them to build their houses. Now, on the Great Pyramid, only the top part of the white polished limestone casing stones were there. Every evidence actually says that the interior, i.e. 80–85% of the Great Pyramids, is poured. People will say, well, they found shells and whatnot and fossils in there, and that doesn't mean that they're not poured. There's actually a really wonderful book that I got not too long ago that proves that they were poured. Every ancient discussion, and there's a whole rational reasoning behind this, and I'm getting to it very quickly here. You read this everywhere, it's been around for decades. In ancient Egypt saw pyramids, monumental tombs for the pharaohs symbolizing primordial mound. Primordial mound, yes, and sending rays of the sun. They were not, of course, edifices for egomaniacal Egyptian royalty as far as their burial sites. However, there is a little bit of truth to that, but not really. I'll get to that here very quickly. They served as pathways to the afterlife. Well, how they operated, that's really true. And they were also believed, and this goes back to ancient times, Pliny the Elder and Herod, they had accounts that were still thousands of years after the fact of the building of the pyramids. They were believed to be, this is from ancient record, as resurrection machines. And there's a great, and this now makes perfect sense based on these structures, because these are piezoelectric structures. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I would not make this video because I don't like to talk about the pyramids. I don't like new age woo-woo. I like stuff that's rational and logical and sensible and where everything ties in neatly. It's like, well, everything makes a complete circle now, and it all makes sense, and it all does now. And I'm not just saying that.
Who said you could ask me out? Do you even have an ability?
What?
My last boyfriend was a level 3. You think I'd slum it with a level 1 loser like you?
Only icy friend.
I shouldn't talk about this till I mention these other points here. Let me get to the other points here, and then it'll make sense. If I start talking about that now, you'll raise your eyebrow and you'll give me a strange look. Using synthetic aperture radar tomography, Corrado Malanga, University of Pisa, and Filippo Bioni, University of Strathchild. There is not a city underneath the pyramids. I keep saying cities, and they're a large structure, but they're actually sets and pairs, and they're equally spaced. And there is a helical from extraction of the material that was under them. So they're not cities underneath there, but they're but the white polished limestone casing stones, you actually get a pressure simulated current, or a PSC. They're piezoelectric devices, and I'll actually talk about the extreme logic of this very quickly. People have been calling them for a long time power plants, which I always laughed at. So, the pyramids, as they sit, from everything we know, they're not power plants. And they're still, we really can't say power plants, but they are in a way. So, when they say that the people that you thought were totally cuckoo, they turned out to be right? Well, it turns out that's kind of the case here. By the way, it's been known about for thousands of years that water channels actually flow from the Nile River underneath the pyramids, changing the water and salinity, as the ebb and flow and the seasons change on the Nile River. And ancient satellite imagery showed that the Nile River was right up against the pyramids back in the day that they were actually created. What would happen is this would affect the magnitude and color of the coronal glow on the tip of the pyramid and the surrounding atmosphere, and I'll get to that very quickly here, why there was one. You can literally tell, and I'll explain this very quickly here, very, very quickly in just a second. You can literally tell the seasons and the ebbs of the seasons, and also, too, the orientation of the Earth relative to the sun by the flow and the change of the spectral of the plasma and the coronal glow from the tips of the pyramids. Especially looking at them at night. They were never burial structures. The Egyptians, even the royalty, was never that vain. These structures apparently descend roughly 6,500 feet below the pyramids, and the imagery shows that they're perfectly spaced in pairs. There's 8 pillars under the Great Pyramid, and there's likewise structure with equal spacing and similar pairing underneath the other ones. And in explaining what this is and the piezoelectric effect of what these are becomes really, really simple here. And if you look at the images from the SRI scans, you'll actually see that. The Giza pyramids, as I said, the outer casing stone was a brilliant white, smooth, polished white limestone. These were cathode anode piezoelectric discharge structures, and there's a long reason for this. And it makes brilliant sense, and if you let me get to that here very quickly, these piezoelectric materials have the unique ability, I don't know if you know about piezoelectricity, to convert mechanical energy into electrical energy, and of course vice versa. Specifically, it's actually electrostatics or dielectric. The electric current emissions with a positive voltage amplitude in the same mineral, including the white limestone, when it's pressed, it's called PSC, or pressure stimulated current. The water actually flowed into these vertical cylindrical shafts. And by the way, there is I forget the type of radar or ground penetrating was used on the pyramids, and they show unmistakably 100% undeniable. I was talking about this years ago. There's a helical or vortex structure on the inside of the pyramid showing how they were built. The outer casing stones are 100% undeniable, actual stone. It's the vast majority of the pyramids themselves, which does appear, and the best experts in the world on the subject said this is poured material, basically ancient concrete. So the amount of time it actually took to build these is nowhere near as long as a lot of people have spent. It took, 100 billion people. It had to have been aliens, because it took the entire population of the world to build these, and it would have just taken a gazillion years, and that's just not true at all. Absolutely not true. By the way, limestone has a very, very high capacitance for charge, and also, too, the shape of same. The hollow cylinders underneath these, which are equally spaced, you can disagree or agree on what they are or not. They're certainly not ancient cities, but the water flowed into those. And the removal of the limestone underneath, the more you got underneath something, the more you're able to displace compression. This is why buildings fail if they don't have enough supporting structures. There's not enough supporting structure to spread the weight of the gravitational acceleration of the entire mass above it. By removal of this, you have this increased piezoelectric with, I don't know what the salinity was, but there's channels that ran from the Nile directly underneath the pyramids, and they obviously dumped into these, and we know from the very base of the Great Pyramid that there's tons and tons of dirt there, and every record shows, including the Egyptologists, never excavated there. It just looks like a rubble field at the very, very, very bottom of the pyramids, as low as we could go. We never done any excavation. It just looks like I've seen images and video of it. It's just like a rubble field. Well, apparently these cylindrical structures are basically like a well that's been filled in over thousands of years with silt and dirt and rocks and everything else. So this is not working anymore. And the casing stones.
And we're sure this is shocking for many of you that have just hearing the news and tuning in. But the response is being complicated by the mysterious domino effect of power failures along the East Coast as well as around.
Hi! Have been removed, and I'll give you the laundry list of why this works and why it was so intelligent for them to make these, and it'll make perfect sense to you here very, very quickly. The hollow cylinders mean the ultra high pressure due to the removal of the material increased the pressure immediately on the foundation. This is also to a reference not only to the piezoelectric structure. When I actually saw those hollow cylinders underneath the supermassive weight of the Giza pyramids, I knew immediately that they were a piezoelectric structure. And I've known for decades, and so has everybody else, that there were not natural but artificial currents dug from the Nile that flowed directly underneath the pyramids. In other words, the ebb and the flow and the salinity of the Nile River, which sometimes flowed backwards and of course changed the salinity, would actually change the coronal discharge from the tip of the pyramid. The actual limestone casing stones worked the same way the metal layer does between two layers of glass in a Leyden jar. You can find a video of that on MIT's website. It's called the dissectable capacitor, and it's just, they show you how they use a electrostatic generator to charge up the glass capacitance, and then there's this metal barrier between the two glass materials, which are beakers, and the casing limestone, which has really amazing dielectric capacitance properties, actually channeled the piezoelectric effect from the enormous weight of the pyramids from those vertical chambers. I don't know if you understand this or not. If they was not hollowed out underneath the pyramids didn't make any sense. They make perfect sense now. By removal of an enormous amount of material underneath those pyramids, then you have drastically increased pressure, and then you actually have a piezoelectric effect, which is brought up through the limestone casing stones. Go look up the electrical transmissive and dielectric properties of white limestone. Right up to the tip, which was a Ben stone, it was covered in gold. So you actually had lightning bolts shooting out of the top of the pyramids, and you actually had a coronal discharge, which ionized the air, and it had to have been a magical color. And I'm going to get to the reasoning for why they would do this. Why would you go to that extreme structure, extreme amount of work to do that? And it becomes really logically clear very quick. I'm just trying to explain the mechanics of these piezoelectric structures and how they work. You had 8 vertically aligned structures arranged in 2 parallel rows from north to south. They are spiral excavation structures around the cylinders, which of course is how they excavated them out. And by excavating out the material, that means there increased pressure, which brought up the capacitance and the flow of electrostatic discharge around. I'm not talking about woo-woo here. I'm talking about actual electrical theory and field science. It's a piezoelectric, it's a supermassive piezoelectric device. Who knows who actually discovered this? On a small scale, they probably realized that if we create hollow cavities in stone, we place an enormous amount of weight on it, and you actually case it in a dielectric material, then it'll actually send a charge up through the tip, and we can actually, if you stick a metal tip on it, it'll work exactly the same way that you have super high Gaussian flux on the tip of that pyramidal magnet. It works no different than sticking a prong out on the side of the torus of a Tesla coil. It'll actually arc out from that coil. It's the same effect. You can stick a little metal pyramid on the side of the the secondary of a Tesla coil, and it'll arc out from that. It could just be a rod, but of course it's the metal tipped, gold covered actually, a Ben stone on top of the pyramid. So the spiral excavation shows the hollowed out cylinders. Penetrating radar, of course, like I said, proved that the pyramids themselves had internal corkscrew spiral structures. The outer casing stones are little stones, but much of the pyramid, of course, is poor, but that's not relative to saying what these are. So this is how they were built. Every evidence shows that the internals were poured, and the external, you can see it on the top of the Great Pyramid. The outer casing stones are still present on the top quarter of the Great Pyramid. Everything else was peeled off with prod bores over the past thousands of years. These are just like charged centrifuges when you actually look at the 8 vertical structures that are evenly spaced, and they all have corkscrews around them. You could argue about what they are all you want, but they're piezoelectric power generators. I'm not actually in this video, by the way, in any way, shape, or form saying that the pyramids are power generators, but they have a lot of amazing stuff, and it'll make perfectly clear sense here very quickly. Ancient commentary about the pyramids actually drew an enormous amount of people in. Why do you think people would come for thousands of miles, literally? Of course, they had to have the funds to do it. They said that these were resurrection machines, and I'll explain that here very quickly. Basically, like resurrection stargates for those who paid, kind of like the Catholic Church did back in the day, where you could actually buy. Titchell actually did that. He went around to the Catholic Church, and you could buy your loved ones exit from Hades. Like, you know, if you drop a silver or gold coin, they'll give you a certificate, and it'll boost your loved one out of Hades and vault them off into heaven. And laughably, although amazingly, this had to have been a huge moneymaker for ancient Egypt itself.
These are Bessies. They also make these fantastic waterproof shoes. Not water resistant, or not water resistant coating. They are knit waterproof. They use a technology called Dynatex. It's a dual climate knit, meaning it keeps your feet.
These same cylinders also exist at the other pyramids in Giza. Here's the laundry list of what purpose it served. Ancient commentaries, as I said, and that's the oldest evidence we have, they call them resurrection machines. Unalive flesh, I don't know if you know this or not, with a strong enough electrostatic charge will move as if it is being resurrected. These huge structures alone, even though they're very impressive, I'm not seeing them, but I mean everybody's impressed. These huge structures alone were not enough to get people of any means possible to travel, you know, countless leagues away to see these. It's not their size. That wasn't enough to draw in pilgrims from literally sometimes thousands of miles away. So you would animate unalive flesh with the coronal discharge also too in the interior of the pyramid, but I don't know, and it would actually light up and ionize the atmosphere, but you literally have lightning bolts, actually electrostatics, super high voltage. Now, I don't know how high of an amperage, I don't know how to calculate that on something that large, emitting out of the tips of the pyramids. It'd be going 24/7, day, night. The color would change, the intensity would change depending on the orientation of the pyramids relative to the sun due to solar induction. Also, too, due to the salinity of whether the Nile was flowing this way or it was flowing flux or reflux. And that, of course, did and does, and that's 100% undeniable, flow underneath the pyramids. So you can literally determine what time of day, of course, you can see what time of day it was, what the flow of the Nile River was, and the color spectra of the coronal discharge and how intense it was. This influences the body and plant growth. Anybody that would have been near the pyramids, and goodness knows, kind of like an amusement park, you guarantee. That's also, too, how they paid for these pyramids. We were told and lied too much of our life that there was forced peasants that built the pyramids. And everybody knows now that's just total nonsense. They were super skilled artisans. Well, how did they pay for it? Even back in the ancient days, you can't get somebody to dedicate their entire life, you know, to sweat and toil and work to build something that's super massive. It still took thousands of people, X number of decades, but it still could have been done in a lifetime considering the central parts were poured. Well, you do that the same way they do bridges today. You actually loan money, but it's going to generate this much money. We know this works because the small structures prove that it works. This discovery by who knows who. And we're going to draw on people from all over the place. So it influences the body, plant growth, amazing coronal glow over the city, is shooting bolts of electrostatic lightning at high voltage out of the tips of the pyramids, lighting up the night sky, a beautiful corona, kind of like the aurora borealis in the north. Electrostatic body charge giving unique properties. You could actually say take your recently deceased loved ones in the middle, and you would say, and I know this is what they did, and they say, for X amount of coin, that's how these pyramids were paid for, we will vault the soul of your loved one up through the lightning which shoots off into the heavens. And even an intelligent person, well, these people have definitely got the market cornered on the gods and metaphysics. And it's not their amazing archaeology, the structures and carvings and whatnot, that the entire ancient world for countless thousands of years thought the Egyptians had cornered the market on the gods and spirituality and the path to heaven. And the reason is simple. There's this mystical land where the Giza pyramids are, where lightning bolts shoot from the sky. So these people are obviously the ones who have the true contact with the gods, because if you didn't have contact with the gods, there's no way these Egyptians could make these structures. Obviously, they have the gods' favor. Now, you get the wealth of pilgrims, you get the charge of your body, you pay money to enter the pyramids, and for X number of hours or period of time, you say, oh, we're going to send the soul of your recently deceased up through the center of the pyramid, and they're going to ride the lightning off into the heavens, and they're going to be with the gods. Sure, here's the gold coin. So you'd pay to stick the deceased in the pyramid, the vaults, for X period of time to raise their soul to heaven. Tourism. This really, really answers the questions how you have the most skilled people in the ancient world to build this. Because these people had to be paid. They would give you the finger even back then. It's like, I'm not going to work my entire life. Who's paying for this? It wasn't up their spiritual devotion. These are skilled artisans that still wanted money. Work really, you're going to pay me. Same way we do bridges now. Bridge is going to make X number of money. We've already predicted it. We're going to build these superstructures that's going to draw in tourism for leagues and leagues, thousands of leagues away. People are going to pay to get near it. People are going to pay to go inside the pyramid, so much so that they even generated more pyramids because the first one was too popular. Modern government, just as we display our military hardware to impress the rest of the world, the ancient days, you showed real magic, even though this is actual science. Of course, science and magic were the same thing back then. They showed the magic to make the money and to gain converts and make the state of ancient Egypt rich, which this obviously did. When they said in the oldest record of the pyramids that these were resurrection machines, well, to everybody in the ancient world, these have to be resurrection machines. You can feel it in your body when you get close. It's shooting lightning out in the sky. It's literally lighting up with plasma glow the entire night sky, kind of like Chernobyl did when it actually blew its top. The entire sky around Chernobyl glowed this eerie purple. Well, that's radiation ionization. Well, this is ionization due to electrostatics from the piezoelectric effect of those hollowed out cylindrical chambers underneath. To the weight of the pyramid is a piezoelectric device, 100%. I knew it immediately when I saw it. You can deny this all you want. You can guffaw and roll your eyes at what I said. I'm not interested in New Age woo-woo and, putting magic crystals. I've never been into that. I'm not discussing that. I'm not interested in blind, unintelligent, irrational speculation. That's all of these structures can be, but they've obviously been silted in because I've seen video of the very, very bottom of the Great Pyramids, and he said, look, there's a rubble field. We've never tried to excavate it here because there's nothing here. It's just rubble. That's the reason why those limestone outer casing stones exist. It is a piezoelectric, gigantic, super high voltage energy discharge structure. It impressed the entire ancient world, and everybody thought, rightly so, Even the most logical and brilliant minds said these people have obviously got the gods cornered in a good way. I mean, these people have obviously are in tune with the gods. They've built structures that are literally shooting lightning, not from the sky to the ground, but inverse. If you take your loved one in there, you're communicating with the gods. Who knows how much coin they drop to go in there for X number of minutes or hours, or take your dead loved one. Well, take your dead loved one. His soul is still in his body. All you have to do is we'll take him in there, and his soul will ride the lightning back up to the gods. Also, too, is a lighthouse effect. Can you imagine how much money this drew into it's not ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt would have been 1000 BC. We were talking about ancient Egypt at the time of the pyramids when they're going strong and they're emitting lightning out of the top of the Ben stones covered in gold due to the casing stones of the white limestone on the outside of the pyramids, which has been pried off, and the huge cylindrical cavities underneath, which increase the pressure to increase the piezoelectric effect of what the pyramids actually did. So this is literal pyramid power. I've only ever known about one genuine pyramid power, which is real. You can measure with a Gauss meter. This is also, too, real pyramid power. When I saw those vertical shafts in the hollow cavity, I knew immediately, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that they're piezoelectric devices, and there's a long laundry list of things that they achieved in doing that. Why did they stop working? Lack of maintenance. The cavities, the vertical shafts are thin. That's undeniable. And they've peeled off the metal equivalent of the Leyden jar, the white outer limestone casing stones. Of course, it doesn't work anymore. So it did work. Who knows when they tore the casing stones off? I don't think anybody knows that. God knows, 1,500, 2,000 years ago. But they did work, and that's what they were. I hope you liked this video. I was only interested in logical, rational commentary upon the Great Pyramids, and this is what they are. And it makes total sense. Everything ties in a nice, neat little circle. If you want to contact me, my information is in the link below. Also, to any donation is warmly welcome. Logic and rationality and wisdom above all else. Lux e veritas. Thank you.
Yeah, he's a weird presenter, but he has good information.
Safe flight repair, safe flight replace.
Nobody likes a cracked windshield.
Taking my time, making you wait. Attention is everything.
E-File is now open. Snap your W-2 and file your taxes 100% free. Plus, get your biggest refund. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns. No schedule except for earned income tax credit, child tax.